Um, just thanks, Steph. When I'm sharing, I can't see who's on the slide, so just let me know if I'm supposed to cover a slide.
Got you. Um, okay, sweet. Well, like we said, today is the info session on becoming a tribal elder food box producer. Um, so I think you can scroll to the next slide, Kara. And this one is either you and I, but I'll go. So just real quick for those of you that are completely unfamiliar with the program, it's a 15 distribution program. It runs May through December. We pushed the dates back a little bit this year that you'll notice in the calendar. So we're now starting more towards the end of May and running later into December. Um, and those distributions are bi-weekly box distributions to our elders in all 11 federally recognized tribes throughout the county or throughout the state. Um, and we prioritize purchasing from tribal producers, people of color, and local food producers. Each distribution is about 2,000 boxes. Um, and we haven't really increased the number of that. So, okay, next slide. This one's you, Kara.
Okay, so we just wanted to give everyone again for this is kind of one of those like sometimes we just have to take a step back and see all the work that's been done and give everyone on this call kudos too, because a lot of you have been part of this program for a long time. But you can see the program has had pretty substantial growth since the program started in 2021. That year, you know, 10,800 boxes. There were about 900 going out biweekly to 7 tribes. And by 2024, we were able to do 31,200 boxes. So we've seen a huge increase, and that's because the demand has just been going up. Again, as you all most likely know, with the new administration, we're unsure where funding will get cut. And we do have quite a bit of federal funding towards this program supporting it. So we are at this point planning to run the program in some capacity in 2025, and um, you know, will it grow? Probably not. But we'll just see what we can maintain at this point while we kind of adjust and pivot to the new administration. So, but our focus has always been and will always be supporting tribal and small farmers. And so please ask us any questions you have, and so we can see how we can better support your work. Um, and we were really excited in 2024. Over 60% of the dollars spent on the program went to regional tribal producers. But in total, we've circulated over $2.16 million through the local food economy just in last year. So really impactful work. And this is the 2025 calendar. I just want to put out there, like, don't be stressed about having all of this right now or taking notes. If you go to the Great Lakes Intertribal Food Coalition website, which is greatlakesintertribalfood.org, on the Become a Producer tab on that website, is all the links to all of this information. So the only link that is not currently available is the recording for this video that we're currently recording, but we will get it up hopefully by the end of this week, so that anyone who misses this can see it. Thanks, Lauren. She just put it in the chat. But this is currently linked on the website, so you can open it up and just take a look. But what we have circled are the 2 days that we usually have producers delivering, and that's just because the Wednesday of the week identified. So if we're talking about the last week of May, the 26th and 27th would be ideal days to receive food because the 28th is when that repack is happening of the tribal food boxes. And then the Thursday and Friday is when those boxes are going out to community. So if you ask me, oh, hey, it's the week of the 26th, can I get the food to you on the 29th? No, because the boxes are already going to be in community. So these are the last possible dates. Now, if you have a protein or a minimally processed food like corn mush or maple syrup that can be delivered ahead of time because it's not super time sensitive like produce, we can always take that product early. So just let us know if you have a storage problem or you're getting that product or you're getting your cow processed and then you need to um, have someone pick it up from even the processor. Wisconsin Food Hub can do that. We can take it early. So just work with us. More than likely, we can find a solution. Um, and then I just wanted to share this as kind of a frame of reference for where all of our producers are coming from. We have a wide spread across the region. Um, so if there, more than likely, there's also a producer very near to you. So if you're having, storage, transportation, any of those kinds of issues coming up, just let us know because more than likely we can connect you with someone nearby,
Mhm.
um, or we can get you on a route with somebody nearby. So just wanted to share that too. All right, Steph, I think this one's you.
Okay. I did see in the chat the access request for the application. We'll look into that as soon as this info session is done. Um, okay, so non-processed proceeds, proteins have included um, beef products, ground beef, beef tips, um, fish, bison, pork, ground elk, chicken, half quartered whole and drumsticks, some ground venison, but not a lot. Eggs, not a lot of eggs as well, but we have done it sometimes. And dry beans. And typically the unit size for these are all 1 pound units um, per box. So those are the proteins. And then seasonal produce. These again range quite frequently based on seasonal availability, things like that. Most common though are onions, potatoes, variety of squashes in the fall, tomatoes. We have done frozen strawberries and blueberries. Um, lettuce. We do aquaponic lettuce quite a bit. Cabbage. We have done some like springy greens too and microgreens. Um, beets, carrots, we've done kale. So yeah, range, and then you can see the different unit sizes that typically go in a box. So like cucumbers usually are 2 to 3 cukes per box. Apples, we try to do at least 5 or 6 apples per box, things like that. Um, melons, again, that's usually like a choice item too sometimes. But it's like 1 melon per box, things like that.
And I'll just jump into
Mhm.
we are going to share in a couple more slides here. We put together like a pricing guidelines sheet. And so that one breaks down also kind of the sizing and what we're looking for units for each of these
Mhm.
produce items as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, just to be clear, this is not like a all-inclusive list. Really, any
Right.
produce that grows in Wisconsin, Michigan, or Minnesota, we are trying to purchase. And we're just looking for what we can cobble together to make a full order, which is that 2,000 units.
Mhm. Okay, what's inside a tribal elder food box? So as you seen, there's proteins and produce and shelf stables. So we usually try and do 2 to 3 proteins. Three is typical. We'll do a fish and then either like a bison or a beef or a chicken, and then like a dry bean to go with it. So we try and make that variety. And then 8 to 10 produce. Again, you've seen the list, but um, a variety of seasonal produce. And then 1 to 2 shelf stables, typically maple syrup, wild rice, honey, corn mush flour, teas, jams, jellies, apple sauces, things like that. We're always looking for more shelf stables too, minimally processed, and we'll go over that information as well too. But these are like the basic contents of what goes into a tribal elder food box. Okay, so as you heard me just say, um, minimally processed, shelf stables and unit sizes include corn mush flour, maple syrup, wild rice, honey, applesauce, dehy hominy, maple sugar. We just can't do like overly processed types of materials. So, Kara, what would you like? Some jerkies, I think, fall into that. Anything that's just like really overly processed, we can't
Yeah, like
for our
even I think
cooking purposes.
sausage.
Sausages, yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's directly from grants that we
Mm,
have. So, oh, thanks, Jen. Apple butter's on here and it's not correct. So we've been kind of looking at the guidelines for what is considered minimally processed by the USDA, since that is where the funding is originating from. And in our grants, it specifically states that we can only purchase fresh or minimally processed. So not
mhm,
necessarily a like GLFC stemming request, but more from a funding standpoint. So those foods like apple butter, jam, where high heat and acid is applied, um, are considered more highly processed.
mhm. If you have any questions about that type of shelf stable and you're unsure, feel free to reach out to Kara and I, and we can help work with you on that. Okay, feedback from 2024 recipient survey. So we had a really good response rate for our elder food box surveys from our elders. We had almost 500 surveys returned, um, between all 11 federal nations. So that's awesome response rate. Um, and some of the feedback included their favorite foods. So ground beef, wild rice, ground bison, berries, and maple syrup were some of the um, top mentioned foods. I would argue strawberry drink is probably in there too. I got a couple complaints from elders that they didn't have strawberry drink in their box. I always hear about it when something's missing from the box. Um, but yeah, overall, we have a really good response rate from our elders on the quality of the foods and the array of foods that they were getting this past year. So, all right,
Is it me?
Kara. Yeah.
So this is just a very overwhelming slide that basically includes a bunch of links to all the things that are also on the Glyphsy website. But essentially, especially if you are a new producer, these are all the recruitment form and the availability form are going to be new to you. The recruitment form is basically like a very simple application. Um, but I don't like using the word application because it's not like you would be denied. It's more of just us getting a sense of who you are, what your business is, what do you sell, what would you be looking to sell. Um, and then the seasonal availability form is projections. So if you've never filled a projection sheet out before, please get in contact with us. We can help you work through this. It's very, um, it's a new way of thinking. So trying to imagine when you would be planting and then how many weeks out that food might be ready for us to buy, and so that we can plan out which week um, we'll put you on the schedule for. And we know that this will change throughout the season. Steph and I are very used to talking with producers and changing throughout the season because it was dry and nothing grew and it's going to grow later. So we understand that this isn't like super hard and fast, but we do need some semblance of understanding when to project and contract with you. Um, and then the MOU is required from every producer working with the program. And this is basically you're understanding all of the standard processes we have in place, and you're willing to follow the food safety rules that we have. is really the two main important things here. So, and we'll go over the food safety stuff in a bit. But yes, these are very important. Again, all of these links are very accessible online at the Great Lakes Intertribal Food website, and will also be available, if you email and you need them, just let me know. Um, I'm going to do this slide really quick, and then maybe we take a quick pause if people have any questions up to this point.
Okay.
Um, so again, just looking overview, the 2025 Tribal Elder Food Box program will start the last week of May and go through mid to late December. Again, for those of you who have been working with the program for a couple of years, this is a little bit different. We used to start like the second week of May. It just is really hard for those who were doing those first couple distributions. It's pretty hard to get product in May, especially just with our growing season being very strange lately. So we are hoping that moving end of May to mid-December will allow for more producers um, to be involved because a lot more folks have things, toward the winter. We also have a pricing structure that is new this year. It's more of a guideline. So if you need to negotiate or want to negotiate above what's set, um, we understand. I think we have been seeing, based on looking at historical data, I spent like a week looking through all of the data that we've accumulated and comparing it with the Wisconsin LFPA program and other wholesale programs. And just seeing the fluctuations and where people are pricing food at. And we just don't want anyone to be undercut, especially because we have a lot of new producers in this program and people who may never have priced before. And so not understanding the value or over, stating the value. We just want to make sure that everyone's on the same understanding of where our expectations are for pricing. Um, so we did put together a pricing sheet. Again, if you need to be above that, just we're going to probably ask for some justification. And maybe that's I just hired a new staff and this is where I'm at right now, or I need to buy this equipment this year. And so my price is a little bit higher, but next year it's going to come down because this equipment will make me more efficient, or I need to purchase insurance. So I need to, whatever it might be, but we do need to know that just so we can understand. And if we're ever questioned, then we can share that. So,
Oh
um,
God, kidding me.
so that's kind of where things are at right now. I'll just take a quick pause if people have any questions. Otherwise, we can keep moving.
One question I have is when pricing, should we include freight or do we put freight separate? How does that work?
This year we do need to include freight. The freight should be included, like the pricing that we have. We did follow like the LFPA and the others, which I'm pretty sure have included freight. I will have to look back at that though, Tracy. That's a good question.
Mhm.
Let me look back at it and confirm what the guidelines that we have, if that includes freight already, which is pretty difficult. Probably doesn't. I know on the pricing, I was talking to a couple producers already who have reached out for next season. And for those of you who are building freight in ahead of time, like if you're doing your own sorry, word is hard for me to say. If you're doing your own delivery, like I know some of you have trucks and are trying to build that in from the beginning, if you're able to break down your pricing by the price per pound or per case or per unit, and then add the delivery cost separately and then have a total. If you're able to do that, that would be really helpful for us to just see so that we can also have an understanding of what the delivery price is costing. Um, does that help, Tracy? I think now that I'm saying this out loud, I think the pricing currently is not built in freight because there's no way for us to know what your freight would cost.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that helps. Can we just do it as like make a new column for freight? Um,
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Okay. I'm gonna keep cooking. Okay, so again, just with the pricing stuff, I know it's kind of sticky. The reason why we are doing this, like I said before, we were just seeing kind of a big range, and then also, um, we know that it's tricky selling into a wholesale market if you've never sold into a wholesale market before, and the pricing is different. And the reason is because what wholesale is we're buying in very large quantities and setting contracts in advance. So we know that that saves you time not having to go to farmers markets and sit and sell one item at a time or going to individual retailers. Um, Oftentimes we're doing it in bulk, so there's not the individual packing costs. So that saves time and money. And so on our end, like we need to take advantage of like we have limited funding, and so we need to be paying the wholesale pricing um, at market rate, but not paying retail pricing at wholesale quantities, if that makes sense. So that's just kind of what we've been seeing in this like disparity range that we've been getting in for pricing. So that's kind of like the why as to where this came from. Um, so just wanted to share that as well. Um, okay, I'm gonna pass the floor to Jen.
Okay, I have just a couple of slides. There are three types of products that Tribal Elder Food Box accepts. The first one is not processed food. So that's whole fruits and vegetables, whole apples, whole potatoes, you get the drift. The second category is minimally processed. So in our case, some of those include white corn mush, wild rice, maple sugar, and you must be compliant with your local jurisdiction. So whether that's the state, the county, the city, the tribe, that's the requirement that you're in compliance with your local jurisdiction. And then if you do have minimally processed food, presumably say maple sugar in a half-pound bag, that must have the name and location of the processor. And then the third category is meat, poultry, fish. And those items must be received in frozen solid, having never been thawed. Most of our, maybe even all of our protein vendors drive directly from the processor to Wapaka to drop their meats. So we don't have issues with that. Each unit of protein should have the producer's name and the location of the processor. And that, if you need help with that, please let us know. We can help you figure that out. But it needs both the farm name, address, and the processor's name and address. And then the next slide is food safety training. So there are several ways that you can get get food safety training. The Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council, WITCAC, they have several food safety trainings throughout the year. One of their primary ones is actually produce safety. So we can help you find one of those. The Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission also has some food safety, including tribal food code adoption information. And Lakudere University also I'm not familiar with that, but it looks like they also have some food training. And there is a lot of online training that you can get, some of which comes from Indigenous Food Ag Initiative. So there's lots of food training. If you want help or need more assistance finding trainings, just let us know and we will help you do that.
Awesome. Is this me again? Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry you all have to hear me so much today. So this is packaging expectations specifically really for on this slide produce. So we wanted to emphasize clean boxes are food safe. If you are using a box that has been previously used, um, you must use a plastic liner for those ready to eat foods. So we're talking like peppers, really most produce. Like winter squash is fine to not use a liner. People aren't going to be eating the rind, but if someone will be consuming the outside of the fruit or vegetable, a plastic liner must be used or a clean box. Um, we'll have where you can buy boxes on the next slide. And these are the general sizes of boxes. This is really just for like wholesale in general. Again, on the pricing guidelines sheet, which is posted on the website, um, we have a breakdown of by each produce item, what box size is typically used in wholesale for that item. If you're not able to find that box, that's understandable. The reason why the specific boxes are used per produce item is because, like for peppers, you shouldn't be packing 50 pounds of peppers in one box. The bottom layer of peppers will crush. So that's the reasons behind using these specific sizes for the produce items. And then when we're um, receiving that food, if we see a box of zucchini, we know that it's going to weigh 20 pounds because that's the standard. So that's kind of where these standards come into play from our end. For potatoes and onions, in the past, we've done a lot of these by like 3 pound bags or 1.5 pound bags. This year, we are going to lean into the power of volunteerism and do a lot of these things by bulk, so that we can pay those big bulk dollars, and hopefully that will also be easier on our producers to not have to do that labor. So for onions, potatoes, like those 50-pound mesh bags are great. You can also box them, and the boxes are online as well for what size. All orders should be palletized. I know we have some producers who are working with vans or they can't palletize. We do understand that, and we can still work with you if you cannot palletize. We can hand unload at the dock. We do have that ability. Just please let us know in advance if that is the situation that you're in and you're going to need us to hand unload, just so we can make sure we have enough staff available to help with that. But if that's not your scenario and you have the ability to palletize, please do so, and please have it wrapped so it doesn't shift. We have had cases where plenty of times it's not wrapped, and on the even on the unloading, it all falls over and then all the food is wasted. So we really don't want to have that happen. So please, if you can, wrap and palletize. Um, so yeah, if folks have questions on this stuff, I'm happy to answer where I can. Otherwise, connect you with other folks who do these types of trainings and can really help. I'll give a plug for the WITCAC um, produce food safety training. They have a produce safety training. There's one coming up in Ho Chunk. If anyone can find the date and put it in the chat, that would be great. But they're hosted about like every 2 or 3 months at a different tribe. You can attend any of them, and they're incredibly helpful, and they go over all of this information.
Mhm. Lauren, did you have anything to add for this slide? Just as I know, like, you work closely with um the volunteers and the packaging, and then when I was there are some boxes that producers try and pick back up,
Hmm.
reuse. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but
Yeah,
do
that's
you
okay.
want to speak on that quick?
Yeah, there are a few producers that have requested their wax boxes specifically back, just because they're more expensive than a regular cardboard box. I don't know, Kara or Steph, if that is acceptable going forward. Okay, perfect, it is.
Yep. It just if you're going to reuse those wax bushel boxes, you just have to use a plastic liner for the
Yeah,
next round.
yep.
A clean
And
plastic liner.
if the producers want to let me know ahead of time, who to save it for and whether you're picking it up from Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin and Appleton or the Food Hub, we're happy to do that. We always have volunteers that are breaking down boxes. But yeah, in a different vein, just echoing what Kara said, we've had a lot of um, trucks come that have produce or boxes that aren't wrapped. And so when our team is trying to unload it, the boxes shift and fall over in the bed of the truck. And so we're ending up like hand unloading it and it makes it a little bit messy. So any either hand wrapping it before coming or just not going up our ramp in our back and waiting at the bottom, we can have forklifts drive down and help hand unload so we're not at like an angle. But yeah.
Yep. So I feel as though thank you, Lauren. We've seen kind of everything. So please just give us a heads up as much as you can about what's going on. We want to work with you and we want to make it happen. Um, we just have to know, the best way to do that. So I see in the chat, Tracy, another great question. Yes, pallet bins are perfectly fine. I would ask for cabbage if you can use a liner that's clean, just so that, because cabbage sometimes, I know people usually peel like the outer layers off, but that is one where people could eat the outer layer, but winter squash, cantaloupe, that's perfectly fine. Those big pallet bins. Okay, and this is kind of just hammering it down, but clean liners, plastic crates is fine if you're harvesting with plastic crates. Just make sure you're washing those between uses. Pests, bugs, I don't know, things, dirt, all that can get in there and be unsafe, especially for um, we're serving elders. So we want to always be thinking about we're serving a very vulnerable and um, special part of the community. So we want to make sure, like, absolutely, we're doing everything we can to keep produce clean. Um, Everything needs to come washed. So um, chunks of dirt shouldn't be all over the table when we're unloading. Again, this is going directly when you deliver it to us, it's going directly from your container to a tribal other food box into someone's kitchen. And people are receiving this and they feel like it's unloading a box of love. Like that's the comment we get. So feels like Christmas to people. Like we want them to feel special just as much as receive healthy produce and healthy food. So um if you have questions about what kind of how you need to wash produce and all that stuff, I highly encourage you take the Produce Alliance safety training because again, this is something they go over in detail. And then storing produce and how to get heat, the field heat out. All of that stuff is covered in those trainings. Very important. It's also in the MOU, so I encourage you to read that if you're doing produce. All of the temperatures that you need to keep produce at is also in the MOU in the food safety letter of guarantee that you all have to sign. Okay. Labeling. Is this also me?
That's
No, it's
me.
Lauren's
Yes.
turn.
Okay. Yeah, so we have had the most beautiful items come in to the warehouse that I've seen. But once in a while, we'll get stuff that doesn't have a label, or doesn't have ingredients, things like that, which just prolongs it from getting in the box. So we'll have to reach out to the farmer or producer that harvested or processed it, minimally processed it, and get that stuff before we can get it into the box. So requirements for boxes and crates for labels is farm name and address, date that it was packed or harvested, what's in the box, of course, and then the weight or the count in the box. And then for requirements for individual units, so shelf-stable items and proteins, the common or usual name of the product, name and place of business of farmer/producer, and also the name of place of business of the producer or distributor of it. The net quantity of the contents in pounds, ounces, etc., the date that it was packaged, and then all of the ingredients within the product listed in descending order. Cooking instructions aren't required, but they're definitely appreciated. There are some things that we get in here that we can kind of assume how you would cook it. But when it gets into an elder's kitchen, they might not have that same, idea. So cooking instructions are also greatly appreciated.
Okay, and as promised, this is where if you don't know where to buy wax bushel boxes or packaging, these are some options of places. I also would encourage you to get in contact with the Wisconsin Food Hub Cooperative, since they unfortunately weren't able to be on the call today. They're wonderful. I'll have their contact information later on because I have another slide about them. But they do all of our distribution on the program. They also do distribution on a lot of other programs, including the Wisconsin LFPA program. And with that, they work with producers to help aggregate boxes so they can often get boxes in that other producers need. And they can do a big order so that you're not paying for the shipping, or you can get a lower price. So I highly encourage you to reach out to them as well, if you need boxes. And I know, hey, I'm gonna have fun. Kat, I see you're on here. Where do you get your boxes?
Hey, well, we have, okay, I'm going to give you two disclaimers. One of them is that we used to have a USDA value added producer grant. So we did have we bought slightly more expensive boxes, and this was before Food Hub had the LFPA boxes, but we order and I actually like working with them a lot. If you are in Wisconsin, we order from Jordan Seeds, which is they're in Minnesota, right over the border. But they ship speedy. And if you're ordering packaging, you can call them up. Like they're so good. If I order like wax boxes and I have like any partial pallets, like if they're like, oh, the pallet's actually only 3/4 full, um, then they'll call me and be like, you have room for other stuff. Do you want to get other stuff on the pallet? Because for speedy delivery, the pallet, or even like they'll do whatever's cheapest. So sometimes it's speedy, sometimes it's a common carrier. But they will like maximize your packaging space, which I like as a business. They also ship very fast. And so if you don't have storage space, you can tell them, hey, we want you to ship, you can tell them in advance and then they'll ship like when you need it. And they've been really good because we do have some orders that have come in for Tribal Elder Food Box or some other wholesale orders where it's like kind of like, the week of or the week before, and we're like, oh my gosh, we don't have 100 extra boxes. And so they were really good. If you're scaling up and you're not used to having a lot of boxes on hand, they're much cheaper than places like Glacier Valley that I know some people get stuff from. And they do have their price points. Like everything is very transparent. So I really like working with them. It's like a family basically that also grows produce. But you can also, I mean, Food Hub is great, but you do have to plan ahead because you're really talking about like planning a month ahead. So if you have orders set, it is much cheaper. And if you're near an auction, we are not near, I mean, relatively near an auction, but if you are near one of the produce auction sites, and I'm assuming Kara and Stephanie, you could get people just the locations of where those are, you can also usually buy packaging directly from them. Some of them are Amish run, some of them are just state produce auctions, but you can buy packaging on site, which is also a nice option. Those are all my endorsements.
Sweet. Thanks, Kat. That works super well. Do you mind putting the Jordan Seeds contact that you have in the chat?
Yep, I'll send it.
Nice. Okay. Does anyone else on the call have like a cool plug they want to put for packaging?
I do. This is Julie De La Terre from Singing Trees Farms.
Hey, Julie.
Hey, last year I got brown paper bags from the mill, clean, unused feed bags, and I punched holes in them and I packaged my garlic and my shallots in there, and it worked really great. And they palletized really well and they could breathe, and they're 100% compostable after the product was taken out of the bag.
Awesome. Yeah, if you want to put that information in the chat, that'd be really helpful just to share with everyone else too.
Okay, will do.
Thanks, Julie.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, all. Moving on here. We have, oh, actually, is this Lauren?
It
This
is.
is Lauren, yes.
Yes. So yeah, delivery guidelines. So the orders can either be delivered to the Wisconsin Food Hub Cooperative located in Wapaka, or Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin in Appleton, where I'm located. Just the difference here is Wisconsin Food Hub Cooperative is sometimes open like on Memorial Day. That is like the first week of this year's distribution. They're open that Monday. So if you wanted to deliver on a Monday and you happen to be working, you can do that. Otherwise, Tuesday morning by like 11 a.m. is the cutoff to deliver to the Wisconsin Food Hub. If you're delivering to the Appleton Feeding America, then anytime on Monday or anytime on Tuesday before that distribution or on that distribution week, we can accept the orders. Kara covered this before, but dock height trucks are preferred if you're delivering to Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin, but we totally understand that that's not possible for everybody. So we might just ask that you assist us with unloading and repalletizing, or bringing a pallet out into like the driveway area before going up the ramp and things like that, just for safety. So let me know if you have any questions on that, but the contact information for Tara Turner, who is at the Wisconsin Food Hub, is on the screen. She's amazing. Otherwise, if you wanted to schedule with Kara, coming to our Appleton Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin office, her number is on the screen. And we'll also just ask that you schedule with OpenDoc, so our warehouse team is aware that they're expecting a delivery from you beforehand.
And after this call, I will make sure there's a link to this open doc appointment scheduling on the Glyphsy website so that you all can have this link as well. Um, and again, like Lauren mentioned, this is so that our operations team has visibility on when you'll be delivering. And then if you have additional notes, like, because you'll have to select either full truckload or less than a full truckload. We're going to be selecting less than a full truckload, and you can put notes in there. Notes like, I'm going to be coming in a van, it's not palletized, I'll need to hand unload, something like that, so that our team knows and can make sure we have the right staff. This is from Tara at the Food Hub. She wanted to make sure we shared what they can help with. So we contract with the Wisconsin Food Hub Co-op. They're fantastic. Everyone on the call who's worked with them knows that. Um, they can do um, a lot of work for the program in terms of helping with pickups. So if you are growing produce and you don't have a refrigerated vehicle to transport it and keep it at the correct temperature it needs to be stored at all times, then we can help connect you with either another producer nearby you who does have a truck and might be on the same order, or we can connect you with the Wisconsin Food Hub Co-op, and likely they have a route that runs pretty near your farm at least once a week that they can swing by and pick up. So they can usually make things work for us pretty quickly and on pretty last minute notice. They also do, well, so that's aggregation from different farms picking up. And then they also are the ones who are delivering all of the food boxes to the distribution sites. They can help you build so you'll have to, if you're working with the food hub, if they're going to pick up your order and deliver it to the food hub from your farm, then they are going to be invoicing you directly for that pickup. And so to make sure you build that price in, you'll have to just make sure you know ahead of time, ahead of invoicing us, what that price is going to be, whether it's 150 to move a pallet or whatever it might be, so that you can build that 150 into the price per pound or the price per unit, like Tracy was mentioning earlier. If you have questions on how to do that, all of our producers had to do that last year. So if you did the program last year, this is the same. If you didn't work with the program before or last year, just get in contact with us. We can walk you through all of that if that's something that will be on the table for you. Something else to note, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but Wisconsin Food Hub has a pretty big warehouse in Waupaca. They have dry, refrigerated, and freezer storage. So also Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin does to a lesser degree. So if you have an order of protein or something like frozen berries or maple syrup and you don't have anywhere to store it, but it's ready and it can be purchased now for a future distribution, just let us know. We can coordinate a pickup or a delivery, and we can have it stored for you. So know that that's available. And these are the rates for dedicated pickups and their routing. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Tara. Again, she's fantastic. So I'll put her email also in the chat so you have it off this slide. And the slideshow is also already linked on the website. So All this information's on there. Did Dan join the call? I don't think he did. Okay, I'm gonna take a brief stab at this, or take a brief look at this slide. Essentially, a new requirement for the program, hopefully not new to folks on this call who are operating a farm business. We are looking to have all of our producers insured. So we're hoping by the start of the 2025 tribal elder food box season, which is May, all of our producers are carrying insurance. And if you don't, then we will be contacting you, or please contact us for help on getting connected. We have a staff member, Dan Cornelius, who has more information about how he's done it, gotten insurance. So if you need help with this, please know it's something we are happy to help you with, because everyone should be carrying insurance, and this is a requirement of the program. So I don't know, Jen, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't have anything to add, aside from, yeah, please reach out, we can help.
Hey, Kara, this is Dan. I was jumping on right at the exact right time, except
Did
I'm about
you
to,
wait for me to stumble through that before jumping in?
yeah, subconsciously, and I'm just about entering a dead zone here. But I guess I would add just a tiny bit more context, and like if I cut out here, it'll only be for about 30 seconds or less. But one of my big recommendations on finding and getting insurance is, and sorry if Kara already said this, but I've found that talking to brokers is is a good idea because the brokers can kind of shop what you're trying to do around to different insurance companies. Now you can always contact those companies individually, but that's what I've really found that works the best. There are companies that do a little bit more of farm policies, but a lot of them will do it. So that's my main recommendation. And as Kara said, we can help if you have questions or need a little assistance.
Yeah, the policy, the $1 million policy is a pretty standard recommendation. So yeah, just reach out if you need any help. And that's all the programming today. So if you have questions, please come off mute, let us know what they are. And again, I'm just gonna leave our contact information up. Don't read any of the titles. A lot of them are probably wrong now. But contact information is still true.
I actually have one more thing to add about the delivery. That wasn't on the slide. BOLs, the bill of lading. If we could just get a copy of what we are receiving for delivery, that's awesome. Even if it's as simple as the name of the location it's coming from, the product, the weight that's in the boxes, etc. Or a copy of the invoice with all that information, that would be great.
Yes, and there is a copy. So in the MOU that you all need to sign, if you scroll all the way to the bottom in the appendix, there is a example invoice and an example MOU. You are welcome to use those as templates. If you don't already have a template invoice or BOL for your business, we have plenty of folks who do that for people who haven't created invoices or BOLs before. A BOL is essentially an invoice without the pricing. But it has the total contents of what you're delivering. And the purpose of that is so that the person receiving the order can sign off that it was received, and then it's not questionable on anyone's end, that what you said you delivered is what was delivered. So no one can come back and say we're not paying for that, you didn't deliver it. So it's more safety for you. And if you're delivering the order and you get pulled over and asked what's in your truck or what you're transporting, you have to show a BOL. So it's safety net for you to have a BOL. So that's what that is.
Yeah, if you go to the next slide, the resources are on there in the QR code. You can scan too to get to the thing. I will add that some of our producers to deliver within the tribal communities, some of our tribal, and you do need a BOL when you do that as well. So no matter where you're dropping that product off at, we need a BOL sent back to us. Other questions?
Hey guys, this is Tyler at Fifth Season. Just touching on that insurance point, one of the main benefits we provide for all of our growers here at Fifth Season is that insurance. So if anybody wanted to get in touch with me at the cooperative to just talk about it or see if maybe it would be a good fit to work with Fifth Season, since we distribute to the broadline folks like Cisco and Reinhardt, we have to carry $10 million of insurance. And then all of our growers fall under that policy the way that I have it written up. So sometimes that can be an easy solution for a small grower. All of our little family farms mostly can't afford those monthly premiums. And so it's a big part of what we do.
Hey, Tyler,
Yep.
I would, you know, I don't want to speak for the other team members here, but I think we'd probably would definitely like to follow up with you on this topic. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Sweet. Any other questions, comments? Awesome. Okay, well, Kara and I will keep an eye out for your applications and your availability forms.
Just one,
And
I have
yeah,
a
go
quick
ahead,
question.
Tracy.
When is the deadline to get you everything?
That's a great question, Tracy. Tracy with the great questions today. Oh, sorry, my screen. That is something I didn't think about. Let's say, well, so the deadline is rolling. I'll say that. It's not like if you don't get it in by a certain date, then we can't work with you. I don't want anyone thinking that. More so, I would say the sooner, the absolute better, because especially for those May, June, July dates, the assurance that we can get someone on the schedule and know who has things available. So I would say if you're doing especially produce like in the next 2 to 3 weeks would be really, really helpful. So I'm gonna say like if you can get if you're doing produce, especially early produce by March 14th, so that we can get that contracted very quickly, that would be ideal. If you're doing produce later in the season, end of March. So that's kind of where, if that helps.
Well,
Yeah, we'll try and put some like soft deadlines on the website to kind of give people an indication
Mm-hmm.
if that helps too.
Because we continually are bringing on new producers and contracting, like even throughout the 2025 season, like a producer might come to us in July and they want to sell something in December. So that's always on the table. But yeah, those especially those early May and June months, we'd like to stabilize pretty soon here, because a lot of that planting needs to happen very quickly.
Hey, Kara, did you talk about budget at all?
No.
Well, I just want to, because I think this is fairly relevant, and I know a lot of folks might be a little bit worried about, funding and budgets and whatnot. A good portion of this funding is coming from the state of Wisconsin. I know the governor is actually giving his budget address today, and he is requesting $2 million per year for tribal elder food box. Now, there has been another entity that got a little bit of that funding from the past, the first round of funding. The state of Wisconsin operates on a 2-year funding cycle, a biennial budget, they call it. And so for this current one, last year, this year, there was $1.5 million per year, $3 million total. And the governor is again proposing 2 million per year for 4 million total, which is what he requested 2 years ago. But of course, the budget is is processed with the legislature and then passing it, governor's office signing. So just wanted to give a little bit of context there that is kind of timely that for the next biennial it is happening. Actually, today is a big day.
Yeah, and actually that's also very timely because Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin is currently applying for that 2025 funding. The application is open, and again, that would be like the majority of the funding for this program in the 2025 season. So I actually probably this afternoon will be sending people on this call who have participated in the program in the past an email with a support letter. So if you're able to write a letter of support from your farm or tribe to the funding for this program, that'd be really helpful. So we'll send out a template probably this afternoon, right after this call.
Well, sorry, I just wanted to just add that quick note, given the timeliness of that process really happening today.
Okay. Sweet.
Awesome. Any last questions?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Pam.
I currently use a food grade plastic bag for my product. And I was looking at different options like a sturdy paper bag and like that. Is that okay, or is it this? I think there was a concern about things getting wet, so I wasn't sure if paper was a good option or not.
I'm gonna leave that one to Lauren. Because the corn mush flour comes in a paper bag as well.
Yeah, there are some other things too that come in paper bags, and it is always a challenge sometimes because the produce that we receive are sometimes damp. And we do a great job at bagging stuff that comes in damp, but sometimes we get so much of it in 1 week that we can't do everything.
Mhm.
I would say if you can stick with the food grade plastic, I think that would be the safer option. But if you wanted to try it and, we can also be really cognizant of making sure it's at the top of the box away from all of the other things. So I think either way it would be okay.
The other
Okay.
thing you might consider, Pam, I know that we've had corn mush problems in the past, but the other thing you might consider if you're trying to save plastic,
Mhm.
your paper bag might end up in a plastic bag to protect it once it gets in the box.
Yeah.
So you might be taking plastic out of your left pocket and putting it in your right.
Oh, no. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to chime in a little bit. This is Julie at Singing Trees Farm. We don't use any plastic at all in our farming or our packaging. And I was on a call last night. We're talking about packaging for certified naturally grown because I'm with certified naturally grown. There's a lot of concern everywhere about plastic getting into the food, and now there is a movie out about it, Plastic People something, and it's like getting to be a really huge issue. So having this conversation is really relevant. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Okay, I will stop recording, I think.